again, and welcome to a TryHard Diablo 3 Legendary Guide. Today's class will be the Demon Hunter. We'll be discussing which legendaries you want to use, why you want to use them, which stats will determine specific prices on the item, and just generally, how good the legendary is for the class. Now, the legendaries we'll be discussing today will be the Vile Ward, Mempo of Twilight, Lacuni Bracers, the Witching Hour, Dead Man's Legacy, Manticore, Natalia's Solace, and Inya's Grandeur. So those are the ones we'll be going over, and I'll just be pretty much just going into pretty good detail on why you want to get these and why everyone is using them. Alright, so let's get started with the Vile Ward. Now, the Vile Ward is an extremely good legendary. Reason being is the dexterity value on the item goes from anywhere from 0 to 300, or well, 50 to 300 or something, I don't know. But anyways, it goes up to 300. Any other pair of shoulders in the game will not go above 200. So I'll show you right here. If we just get rid of that and search for that. So go on rare. See, there's no rares with 200 plus. But if you search legendary, you will get Vile Wards. So Vile Ward is the way to go for just straight up dexterity on your gear. Now the base stats on the Vile Ward are dexterity, all resist, armor, and then regen. And I think it's 2 random properties it can have as well. Now those 2 random properties can decide the price as well. Now, if you search, I always go physical resistance on these because it's nice to pick up a bit on some of your gear. So, as you can see, that boosts the price by quite a bit if you go physical resist. Without it, it's still pretty cheap. Affordable. 2,500,000 for a pretty good Vile Ward right there. Now, you can get really good bargains sometimes. Like, you can get up to, there you go, 230 dexterity. It has 76 all resist, and then 5 intelligence, which is 5 all resist. So, 81 all resist, pretty much. For 4 million. That's going to be a huge DPS boost for most players, and they're pretty cool looking as well, so that's a bonus. But yeah, that's they're used by everyone because that 200-300 rule, it just breaks that 200 rule and just goes straight above it, giving you some pretty crazy ones. Like obviously these are going to be the more expensive ones with 290 plus, or like 250 plus really. So like if you're rich, you'd get like a 300 pair. And that would just be insane for your DPS, picking up that extra like 70 dexterity on your shoulders. So yeah, that's why those are so good, and they're very affordable for most people. If you can farm out like 3 million gold, you can get a pretty good pair. So have fun with that one. Oh, and that's the other quick thing. Searching for vitality on Vile Ward, I wouldn't say it's a wise choice because the vitality value for how much money it adds on to the item is not worth it in my opinion. As you can see, it's like 18 million to add on 60 vitality. You can make up that vitality somewhere else in your gear, like your chest or your legs, so much easier than adding on that extra cost onto your shoulders. I really don't think it's worth it, but it's up to you guys. Alright, so the next item we're going to be discussing it's quite a funny one in terms of whether you should actually buy it or not. It's kind of personal preference, but there's a bit of theory crafting in there as well with how much DPS you'll be gaining. So Mempo of Twilight is it has the potential of being one of the better legendaries in the game. Now why I say potential is okay, so let's go over the base stats first just to understand why it can be so good. Now the base stats, it's always going to have a main stat on it like dexterity, intelligence. Obviously we're going for dexterity. It's always going to have all resistance, attack speed, life percentage, and an open socket. So those stats all over are so good. Now it can have one random property. I think it's one. Yeah, one random property it can have. Now that one random property can be crit chance. Now that is the deciding factor on the cost of the helm. Now without crit chance, the helm, I mean, it's good. The dexterity value breaks the standard 200 dex rule on helms, so it can go up to 300. Let's get rid of that. So as you can see, it can go up to 300 dexterity, which makes it pretty good, but the cost is going to be insane for that. So if it doesn't have crit chance on it, and I'm going to say most of you are going to be using a Manticore by now, and if you're not, I'd recommend, we'll discuss that later, but I'd recommend using one. Your crit damage is going to be so high that not using critical hit chance in your helm isn't going to be a good idea. So like if you search for a yellow helm with like maybe let's say 140 dex would be good. And then crit chance, and then like maybe it has a socket on it. See, like you can kind of get better DPS on that helm for no cost at all, virtually no cost at all. Like that's gonna be better than the Mempo with those stats and attack speed, and it's gonna be way cheaper because you want crit chance on it pretty much. So if it doesn't have crit chance on it, I wouldn't really recommend getting this legendary. I've avoided it. As you can see, like I'm using some really crappy Magic Find Helm right now. That's just for farming low monster powers and grinding up Paragon stuff. But anyways, it's really not worth it unless it has the attacks or the critical hit chance on it. But when you add that crit chance on it, you're looking at 100 mil, maybe 90 mil on the US servers is not far off those prices as well. So you can get, that's still going to be a good helm. That's the thing. Like, it's up to you guys. Not that one, but ones with like higher decks on them. Let's see if we can find a decent one I can show you. There you go. Okay, so that is going to be a good helm, but you're going to gain more DPS off critical hit chance. That's the kind of long story short. Just to, yeah. So Dex, all resist. Good helm, but you want crit chance for your main DPS. If you're not too bothered and you just want those stats on it, the extra survivability, go for it. I mean, that's 4 million. It's not like you're wasting your money on it, but, if you're looking at DPS whoring, then I'd go crit chance for sure. But yeah, if you're looking for overall, like, when your set is complete and you're not on a budget, which some of you might not be, definitely go for a Mempo with crit chance on it. Because your DPS is going to be absolutely ridiculous with one of those. The only problem is the high crit chance ones are kind of expensive. As you can see, the perfect 6%, that's the lowest dex it can have, which kind of, well, not the lowest, but that's really low dex. So they get really expensive when you're looking at, perfect ones. I don't even think there are any perfect ones here. We're close to them. There you go. That's as close as you're really going to get. And that is 2 bill. So yeah, but when you're not on a budget, awesome legendary, amazing for DPS. It's the best way to go for DPS on your helm when you have the money for it. Alright guys, so moving on to the next legendary, it's pretty much my favorite one in the game. Reason being, it's just so cool. It can have 2 sockets on it, it's a 2-handed weapon, well, it's a 2-handed crossbow to be exact. And it's just awesome. So the main stats it's always going to have a stats like strength, vitality, dexterity, whatever. It's going to have one of those stats on it. It's always going to have attack speed and critical hit damage. It's guaranteed to have 1 socket, and you can have 2, which is the main point of the item. Now, on your Manticore, you pretty much want to be searching for 2 sockets. Don't go for 1 socket. Really not worth it. You can get other 1-socket bows for better prices. But yeah, go for a 2-socket with dexterity on it. You always want dex on there because that's your main multiplier for your DPS, obviously. So as you can see, they're very, very affordable. Like, you can get let's have a look, see if we can find a decent higher DPS one. So yeah, anywhere in like 920 DPS plus is good, and you can get 2 sockets on there, high dexed, for 1 million gold. Awesome, like really, really good bow. You can get vitality on there if you want, adds a bit more cost on there, but if that's what you want to do, that's cool. So overall, it has the potential of being the best bow in the game. As you can see, like the highest one is on the auction house, at least not the highest one in the world, but the highest one in the auction house has 1,300 DPS, 2 sockets, dexterity. It's friggin' awesome. So overall, I'd say this legendary is an absolute must eventually. When you can afford a decent one. And when I say decent, I mean like, look, okay, so let's search for like 1,000 DPS. There you go. Okay, so like that's we're looking at pretty decent ones now. For like 7 million, 10 million, kind of things like that. Let's see if we can find a really good one. There you go. That's perfect. Okay, so for not even 8 million gold, you can get one with 100 dex, decent crit damage. Overall, awesome bow, affordable. So yeah, just definitely save up for that one because I'd say it's an absolute must if you're aiming for high DPS. Now, if you want an absolutely amazing legendary on your Demon Hunter, this one is the way to go. I'm pretty sure I haven't seen anyone using not Deadman's Legacy since it came out, pretty much. It's so good. Pretty much the guaranteed stats it's always going to have on it are exactly what you want on a quiver. Dexterity, vitality, attack speed, hatred regen, critical hit chance, and then it has 1 random stat as well. And then it has life regen. But the 1 random stat can be, or well, actually it's technically 2 random stats. The first random stat will be an increase to one of your attacks. Now, whatever your main attack is, so like I use Elemental Arrow as my main attack. That's always my main attack. I like it a lot. So that's going to be what I'm going to search for on my Deadman's Legacy, and that's going to separate it from the rest of them. So all of those are going to have Elemental Arrow damage, which is really good. So as you can see, like you can get up to 14%. I thought it was 10%. So 14% increase on your main attack. That's pretty awesome. Now the other deciding factor on this item, there's actually a couple. This breaks the standard 15% attack speed rule, and it can go up to 20% attack speed. Most quivers can have 15%. I won't bother showing you, just believe me. But yeah, it goes 15% max, 20% on this one. So that's why it can be so good. That extra 5% attack speed is pretty nice. You know, you can't really go wrong. So I wouldn't, you know, the higher attack speed, the more expensive the item is going to be, is the unfortunate bit. But I mean, you know, it's a fair trade-off. Like, as you can see, mine has like 20% attack speed, dexterity, vitality, everything you want on a quiver. It's amazing. Now, the other main deciding factor, if you're picky about your discipline, which I'm not too bothered about it because I find you gain so much off Night Stalker anyways once your crit gets high enough, but yeah, that's a different story. You can go for max discipline on there. That's going to make it a lot more expensive though, generally, except for in this case where it doesn't, but yeah. So as you can see, like a really low attack speed one, let's search for 15% attack speed plus. Yeah, that makes it a bit more expensive. If you get rid of that, it'll probably be, yeah, a fifth the price. So if you add on that max discipline, which is the one random stat it can be that, it's gonna, you know, bring up the price by a dramatic amount. But if you're not too bothered, like, you can get the one you were just about to get for 2 million for 400k. So yeah, overall, I'd say this is an absolute must for every Demon Hunter. It's got everything you want on it, and just overall, it's fucking awesome. So definitely go for this one. Now, I don't want to spend too long discussing this one, mainly because it's so unaffordable for an actual good one that it's kind of ridiculous. But for a decent one, it's an okay range. So it's the Witching Hour. It's so good for DPS boost. It has attack speed and critical hit damage on a belt. Like, what? Seriously? And then to get good stats on it is so expensive. So the lowest you'll normally find is anywhere from 10 to 20 million gold, depending on if you're on EU or US. But I mean, so like, let's say that one. Okay, so it has 100 less dex than mine. That's about a 15k DPS increase still, with my gear. So that would bring me up to almost 200k, which is just insane. Like, I mean, if I had my 7% off my Natalias, that would be like a 18k boost for 13 million gold. But I mean, if you want a good one, if you're on a higher budget, you're looking at 100 million at least. So like, there you go. The top dexterity one in the auction house has, you know, it's 100 mil. That's our 179 dex. But the other stats are bad. Like 8% attack speed isn't great, and then it can go up to 50% crit damage. So the other stats are pretty rough. If you're looking for a perfect one, you know, it's gonna get expensive. But yeah, it's good, but it's an expensive one. I would upgrade this last, depending on your gear set. I wouldn't go for this first. You can get a lot more for your money, depending on how much gear you have. So yeah, that's a really good one. Keep it in mind for later on. Don't forget about this one, because you will eventually want to get it if you're going to be DPS whoring to, you know, like 400k plus. So definitely keep that in mind. Alright, so let's move on to the main Demon Hunter set, which I would recommend everyone using at least the 2 set, will be the Natalias. Now, we'll go over the base 2 set first of all. The base 2 set is critical hit chance increased by 7%. That's right, 7%. That's crazy amounts of crit. If you're using a Manticore, your DPS will skyrocket. The 3 set is 130 dexterity, and the 4 set is 20 max discipline. Now, the 4 set's not really worth it anymore, I wouldn't say. Definitely, I just completely steer clear of it. You don't need that much discipline. Like, let's be real here. You don't need that much. Dexterity as a 3 set's good, but I'd recommend just going for the straight up 2 set. Now, the cheapest item you can get in this set will be, well, not the cheapest, but I'd say the one everyone should be getting will be Natalia's Bloodied Footprints. Reason being is it always has Dex, All Resist, Armor, Movement Speed, and then reduced damage from melee attacks, which is also nice. So it always has the main stats you want on there, and it's very affordable. You can get one that's 90 dex, still has really good all resist, armor, movement speed, the melee reduction for not even 1 million gold. Now, if you want to make that the next price bracket, I would say is 190 dex plus. We'll bring it up to close to 10 million. Now, that's a pair kind of I'm using right now. 200 dex on boots is really good. And it'll boost your DPS by insane amounts, and overall, you know, really good item. So if you're on a budget, you can get that item right now for 1 million gold, and it has all the stats you want on there, and you can achieve your 2 set very cheaply. So I'd always start with the footprints. Reason being is they're really good and they're very affordable for everybody. Sorry about the Skype noise. Now, the second choice for to get your 2 set is completely up to you. I personally am not using the chest piece. Reason being is I prefer the Inna's chest piece with the Inna's legs, and then I'm going to go for the Natalia's ring. Now, this is a completely personal choice. If you look at the top 10 demon hunters in the world who are most geared, it's actually, last time I checked, it was split pretty much 50-50 down the middle, of half of them using Natalia's chest, half of them using Inna's chest. It's just completely up to how you want to gear your character. Now, Natalia's chest is really good. It always has dexterity. It always has life percentage. It'll boost one of your attacks by a certain amount, depending on the attack you're using. Then it'll always have some sockets on there as well, which is always nice. So, discussing the 2 set again, like right there, you can get that for 30k gold. I mean, that's pretty good considering you can get your 7% crit chance for less than 1,000,000 gold with the boots and that. So, if you want to do that, that'll be a nice DPS upgrade for lots of you. Now, the reason I don't use Natalia's Embrace is I like to have a lot of vitality on at least a few of my items, or it's spread out between the whole set. Vite is important to me. Reason being is you end up tanking a lot in the higher monster powers. Like, you can just stand there and just spam Gloom or whatever. If you add vitality onto these, you don't get as much as you do on the Innas. And we'll discuss that later, but I mean, you can, but I don't know. I preferred the Natalia's. It was a lot more affordable for me overall. But anyways, so dexterity on there, it has everything you want, and it's very, very cheap. I would recommend going for it, and we'll discuss the Inna's one later, and you can decide on your own which one you really want to go for, but that's just my personal choice. Now, the ring, this can be very affordable or very expensive, determined on the stats you want on it. Now, base, it has attack speed, and it has dexterity on it. I'm pretty sure it always has armor, and, no, I think it always has life regen, is it? Yeah, it's always life regen. So, I mean, overall, it's an okay ring. So, like, again, you can make your 2 set there. You can get that for 1.5 million, but you're going to miss a crit chance on your ring anyway, so I wouldn't recommend it. Now, if you're not using the chest piece like me, you kind of have to get crit chance on your ring to make it worthwhile. Making the overall kind of cost of the ring pretty expensive, but overall, affordable. Well, if you're farming all day and every day, then it is. But yeah, so on the ring, I wouldn't recommend going for the ring unless it has crit chance on it, because to get the 7% on your ring, you're kind of wasting more crit chance than it's worth going for the 2 set with the ring without crit chance on the ring. So I would definitely recommend going for that, only with crit chance. So now the other deciding factor on this ring will be the average damage. If you add average damage on there, it goes up by quite a bit, which can be kind of annoying. It's actually gone down by quite a bit since last time I checked, but yeah. Average damage is the other deciding factor on that, but I would definitely recommend not going for the ring unless it has crit chance on it. Otherwise, you can get a better ring that's not legendary, with 6% crit chance on it. There you go. Like, you're gaining your 2 set right there without. Yeah, it's just not worth it without the crit chance. So I really wouldn't recommend it. Steer clear of it unless it has crit chance. I can't stress that enough. But it's up to you guys. I mean, it's your gold. You can kind of do what you want. But yeah, that's my opinion. Alright, so finally moving on to Natalia's sight. Pretty much, it's a pretty good legendary. I wouldn't recommend using it in your 2 set because there's better pieces you can get, like the chest, the ring, and the boots. And there's much better helms, like Indariel's Visage and Mempho Twilight. So those are much better DPS helms. But it's affordable with critical hit on it. Well, if you want to call 4 mil affordable, and you can get okay dexterity on it for that as well. So the stats it always has on it, it pretty much always has dexterity, it always has fear on hits, and it always has a socket. The only downside is you get armor on there, which isn't the best stat for defensive. It's good, but it's not the greatest. 378 armor works out as about 37 all resist, 38. And then you can have a few random stats on there as well. So you can get all resist on there, or you can get vitality. That increases the price of the helm drastically, though. So as you can see, it goes from 4 million to 23 million for 30 all resist. Which isn't great, and then the vitality works out around the same if you add Vite on there. Well, it doubles the price instead of like quadrupling it, or timesing it by 6. So yeah, it's a good helm, but it's almost not worth the money. Kind of like the ring can be really expensive. So can the helm for a good one. But if you just want straight up critical hit chance on there and you just want a cheap 2 set, then it's the way to go, because it's only 4 million, and it can be a bit cheaper. I've seen it up for 3.2 million actually, with 130 dex and 3.5% crit. So if you want a cheap 2 set, go for that, and maybe some cheap boots or something, and you'll get your 7% crit pretty easily. but it's completely up to you guys. So moving on to the inner set, this set is kind of works out the same as Natalia's. It has the 2 set of 130 dexterity, and that's obviously what you're aiming for if you're going to use this set. The 3 set and the 4 set don't apply to Demon Hunters, obviously. It's more of a monk set, but using that 2 set, it can be extremely effective for your DPS. Now, the kind of piece I definitely recommend always using is Inna's Temperance, and now this is these legs are really, really good. Let me just search generally for these, not for those stats. Now, the reason this is so good is it always has 2 sockets, and it generally has a base dexterity of around 90, which is really nice. You know, so you can get your 2 sockets in there. Dex is already high enough, but then as well as that, it has attack speed, movement speed, and critical hit chance. The crit chance is low, but it's still there, and there's attack speed on there, which is really nice. Now, the movement speed is really nice because then you don't have to use your Lakuni bracers. You can use whatever you want in your bracer slot, or you could use those, obviously, because they have attack speed and critical hit chance, sorry. But this is a really, really good set to use, and I would definitely start by using the legs. Now, it can have a random just one random stat on there. Now, your random stat, it really raises the price by quite a bit. You can have all resist on there, which you'll probably have really low all resist on these ones. Yeah, look, like 12, 20, almost 10 on some of them. There's 30 on those. That raises the price by quite a bit. Or you can have Vitality. Vitality doesn't raise it by quite as... Actually, does raise it by quite as much. It's changed since the last time I checked. So, as you can see, the Vite's not very high for the money you're spending, but it's still on there. So if you're low on Vite and you have the money, you can go for it on this piece. You can get up to 200 Vitality on these, but the price is going to be insane. So it's really for people who have gold. Like if I was saving up for a good pair, I'd probably save up for like 150 Vite on those. So you can't have Vite and all resist at the same time. You can only have Vite or all resist. So it's up to you what you want to pick, and it's up to your budget really. But if you just want a cheap pair, that you can get a pretty good pair for a really low cost. As you can see, 3.5 million, and then combined with your second Inna's piece, whatever you want to use, then you can have 130 extra dex, which is awesome for your DPS. Now, to use your 2 set, you have a couple of options. You have the chest or the belt. But I'll go over the chest first, because this is a piece I normally use. I don't like using Natalia's chest, because it doesn't have lots of vitality on it. And if you're using the Inna's legs as well, you're not going to have much vitality off your legs and your chest. So if you're using Natalia's chest and Inna's legs, then yeah, your Vite's going to be a bit low. So Inna's chest is really, really good for vitality, and it's just a generally good item anyways. So base, it has pretty good dexterity. It'll always have vitality on there. It'll always have life percentage and reduced damage from melee attacks, as well as 3 sockets. So it's pretty huge in terms of sockets, which is nice. Now, as you can see, the vitality generally kind of is a bit lower on the cheaper ones. I would go for over 100 vitality on this, so it will raise the price by a bit. But as you can see, hold on, let's have a look. So if we turn the buyout, there you go. So you can afford a pretty good amount of vitality, like 88 for almost 4 million gold. There's one for 95 for not even 4 million gold. So as you can see, it's really good. Now you can get a random stat on here as well. You can go for all resist, which will raise the price by quite a bit. But if you want to get all resist on the chest, then go for it. But it's completely up to you. The chest piece I'm using there, 190 Vite, 190 Dex, 150 Vite, was only 7 million gold at the time, which is very affordable if you're farming kind of a couple hours a day. So as you can see, it's just generally an awesome chest to have. Really good for survival, and your DPS will go up by a lot with that with the 2 set. It'll just go up by absolutely tons. Well, I think when I quit my 2 set, I went up by like 20k DPS, or not 20k, it was like 15k or something, which is awesome. So yeah. And the final set on the Inna set that you'll actually want to go for is the most affordable, and it's the most recommended if you want to reach a quick 2 sets to get the dexterity. Now it's a fairly good epic. I mean, the DPS gain you gain from it is quite high. Now it adds 7% holy damage. I've been reading around on how holy damage works. It determined on your stats on your main hand weapon. Now I'm not fully sure how this works, but it does. From the one I equipped, it seemed to add the damage on. I'm not sure how the elemental damage kind of compared to my weapon damage or not, but it still seemed to add a decent amount of DPS. So it adds 7% holy damage. It always adds holy damage. It always has dexterity, and it'll have critical hit chance on there as well, which is really nice. It's small amount of crit, but it's still crit nonetheless. Now, you can have random stats on this. You can have all resist or vitality. You can't have both. Now, all resist, your values are going to be really low for kind of lower costs of money, but they'll get higher as you go up. Up in your budget. Obviously, you can probably get up to 50 for not even 20 million. Yeah, so you can almost get 50 for 20 mil. Or you can go for vitality, which you'll probably get better values for lower costs. Yeah, 80 for 7 mil. So it's really nice. Generally, if you just want to get a really quick 2-set, you can spend not even 2 million gold on that. It'll be a really nice DPS boost. So if you got like the legs for 2 million and the belt for 1, then your DPS is going to go up by quite a bit. It's really effective way of gaining it. Now, the more expensive ones are obviously just going to be high dexed, like really high dexterity. Yeah, as you can see, it gets really expensive as you get higher, but you don't need that much on it. If you're just going for the 2-set, you don't need 200 dex on it. 100 will do, but even below 100 will do. Now, the Lakuni Prowlers can be an extremely good epic, and they can also be not as good, obviously, depending on which stats are on them. Now, the stats that are always on them will be a random stat, so obviously you want to filter out dexterity while searching for them. They'll always have movement speed, and they'll always have attack speed. Now, obviously, the random stat you want on these will be critical hit chance, and that will be the main deciding factor on the cost of the item. It's going to go up, yeah, it's going to go up a lot when you do that. So it goes from 80k with, or 50k without it, to 80k with. Now, or sorry, 8 million. Now, if you don't want to get critical hit chance on these, they're still going to be good bracers, but critical hit chance is your main DPS kind of factor, especially depending on if you have a Manticore, how high your crit chance is, things like that. So they're still good bracers in terms of efficiency because you can still have the attack speed, which is a DPS boost, and then the movement speed as well. So if you don't have your Ina's legs, you want to get the movement speed on another item. So you want to hit around 25% mark, so you run as fast as you can for maximum efficiency while farming. So they're always good bracers, but critical hit chance will decide whether if they're good or not. Now, the actual amount of critical hit chance will be the main deciding factor on how expensive the item is. As it gets higher to 4%, the item will get really expensive. So now the other deciding factor on these is the critical hit chance and then the dexterity as well. So, high dexterity on these plus high critical hit chance becomes extremely expensive, mainly because it's such a rare roll of getting both them on it that high crit and high dex, that it's such an unlikely roll that the item's going to be really expensive. But I mean, if you just want like kind of an affordable pair, go for it without critical hit chance on them, and you'll have your movement speed and you'll get your attack speed on there as well. But if you're using Ina's legs, don't get these as your bracers without critical hit chance, because you're just wasting DPS. If you're capped on movement speed, it's just a complete waste. But they're kind of affordable at I wouldn't say for everyone, but for lots of players it can be affordable at 8 million. But for lots of you, it's not going to be able to. So I go for Ina's legs for your movement speed, definitely. Now, while we're talking about bracers, I'll go on to Promise of Glory. So if you are using Ina's legs for the movement speed, I would recommend either going for Promise of Glory or the Stormguard bracers, I think they are, or Stromguard, maybe? Strongarm bracers. Both of these bracers are very good in terms of offensive stats. Now, neither one of them can get above 4.5% crits, but they can both get above 200 dexterity. Now, 200 dex is the standard cap on yellow bracers, but on these two items, they can go far above. As you can see, 223. And the cost of these bracers is very, very low. So it has dexterity on it. I'm pretty sure they always have magic and gold find, which is always a bonus. You can't go wrong. And then critical hit chance you can get on there as well. I think critical hit chance is always going to be on there as well. But these are an extremely good bracers if you just want to boost your DPS and you have your movement speed up there already. Because just the general high dexterity on them is insane. Plus the critical hit chance is always nice. Now I'll search for the Strongarm ones, but they're roughly the exact same as Promise of Glory, except for they have life percentage and armor on them. So it depends on which offense or defensive stats you want on there. I'm pretty sure they can get all. Oh, they can't even get all resist. So that's it's never amazing. But yeah. So I'm using Promise of Glory mainly because the random stats you can get on them will be vitality and all resist. So let's have a look. I'm pretty sure you can get both on there. Pretty sure mine have both. Yeah. So you can see it can have both kind of defensive stats as well on there, which is always nice. So again, if you're using Ina's leggings and you have movement speed and you can't afford really good Lakuni Prowlers, then I'd say this is the way to go. Of course, you can get yellow bracers with 6% crit and lower dex, but I just preferred these ones because the high dex is always nice to have on a few items. And finally, moving on to Andariel's Visage. Andariel's Visage is a very nice way of increasing your DPS. It's general, the base stats are perfect. You get attack speed and you get critical hit chance on there every single roll. And then you get dexterity on there, or well, you can get dexterity on there. So you want to filter out for dexterity. And I mean, obviously, if you don't want to sock it and you're not worried about your Paragon levels, which I'm pretty sure most people are worried about them, it goes really cheap without the socket. Like, we're talking dirt cheap, like 400,000 or 40,000. So, but when you add the socket on, obviously the price goes up by quite a bit. I'd say 4.3 is kind of affordable for lots of players, but again, lots of you are here without that much gold, so it can be quite expensive. But when you get the gold for it, it's a very nice DPS increase. Has critical hit chance, attack speed, and dexterity with a socket. You can't go wrong. And then it has a chance Poison Nova when hits, but that's really irrelevant. You're not going to get that much. And then more fire damage taken. You're not really taking too much fire damage anyways, unless you're standing in Molten or something, so it doesn't really matter. But it's yeah, it's a good way of increasing your DPS, and it looks pretty badass as well on your character, so you can't really go wrong. Rightio guys, that wraps it up for today's Legendary Guide. Hopefully you learned something new about some of the Legendaries, and you just got a better general idea of what you can get for what amount of gold. And, you know, hopefully just you buy a few more Legendaries now and know why you're buying them, and, you know, how to avoid getting ripped off and things like that. So, yeah, thanks for watching, guys. I'd like to really apologize for the, you know, the wait for this guide. I've been ridiculously busy in real life. They had me on, like, 6-7 shifts a week for like 3 weeks at work, and yeah, it's been killing me a bit. So, and then on top of that, there's Christmas, so you know, all that joyous crap. But yeah, the guides, January's gonna be a really good month for the channel, guys. I have 1 shift a week at my job, so I'm just literally just gonna be pumping out videos and playing shitloads of Diablo 3. I can't wait, really. So in terms of future guides, I have a new series coming out, which is called Starting Fresh, and what it is I've started fresh on US servers, and I'm going to bring you guys on like my journey of starting my character from level 0. It's going to be softcore, and it's going to be going from 0 to 60, and I'm just going to be generally just showing you how to make gold along the way leveling, and then as well as that, when I hit 60, I'm going to keep you guys completely up to date on how I'm making gold from completely starting from nothing and just playing kind of casually on that character. So it's going to be general gold making techniques that everybody can use, and you know, so if you're stuck at like 500k gold and you can't get above 3 million to use my 3 million budget guide, this is going to tell you how to make that gold pretty much. Like leveling, you can make insane amounts of gold. I'm on 2 million gold right now. I'm not even level 40, and that's just generally just picking crap up and selling it. So it's yeah, hopefully it'll lighten you guys on what I've been doing, and hopefully it'll just give you guys general tips on you know, on how to do it, how to make gold. Because I get lots of inbox mail saying like, hey, I'm stuck on 1 million gold, I can't get above it. Well, hopefully this guide series will help you do that. So that's coming out. I'm already done the first video now, and that will be out probably after Boxing Day, I'd say. So yeah, but yeah guys, thank you very much for watching, and I will see you all later. Bye bye.